appreciate you for taking the time out for this. We've been huge supporters of you for many, many years, and just to continue to see what you've been doing and how your career has progressed from producer to now, pretty much the head of the Recording Academy, or at least in the interim. It's just amazing and inspiring to see.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a great journey. A lot of good things have happened. We've got a lot of great things coming up, and lots of work to do before we're done.
Yeah, exactly. So, Harvey, I was trying to figure out for this interview, did we want to talk about you or did we want to talk about Steve Kerr? Because I don't think he got enough shine on the Last Dance documentary.
Yeah, well, I don't think Steve has ever been too concerned about getting enough shine. He tends to just be happy and does his thing no matter whether or not you're looking at him and shining on him or not. He's so steady, and what a great guy, what a freaking winner, guy you want on your team at all times.
Absolutely, and I think that's for you as well. And one thing that's very similar about you and Steve is that you guys have been able to transition into different career paths, different stages in your career, doing different things. Like, kind of just talk to me about how you got to this point, because obviously you started out doing basketball, and we know you as a legendary producer. But just talk about some of the qualities that you feel like you have that have allowed you to make all these transitions.
Well, it's a funny comparison because it is definitely something I think about. The group of guys that I went to college with and played sports with, we've all kind of done some of the same things where we've tried to build ourselves or go in a certain direction in our careers and then pivot to something else. And we've used our background and our training. For me in particular, like, I used all the lessons that I learned in sports, and I use those in music, which is kind of a weird combination. But the competition and the sacrifice and the hard work and the dedication and the ability to be persistent and singularly focused, those are the kind of things that don't normally come with being a producer, but definitely comes with being an athlete. And so I brought that to my music making, and I sacrifice. I wouldn't go hang out with my friends. I wouldn't go out at night. I wouldn't go to clubs and party, and I would be in the studio trying to get better. And I would be doors slammed in my face, and this isn't very good. I don't like it. And I'd say, okay, great. That's my motivation. That's what I need to get better. And I would keep trying to improve. And those are kind of the things that you get from sports, or you get from hanging around people like Steve Kerr or Sean Elliott or my coach, Lute Olson. And so I've been able to do that to start my music career. And then once I got into the music career, I think the desire to learn and the desire to be challenged is something that I also got from sports and through some of those people that I played with, because, to transition into being involved or active in the academy comes from wanting to do something else exciting and important and learn and grow and evolve. And I think I've been very lucky and thankful that I've been able to do multiple things in the industry, not just produce records all day and every night. It's like, okay, I'm going to produce records. Now I'm going to produce films. Now I'm going to produce music for film and TV. Now I'm going to be involved in the academy. So having that ability to evolve and grow and develop other parts of my professional career and my personal life has been very gratifying.
That's amazing. And kind of just talk about your role with the Recording Academy, because as a producer, we know what you do there. You're making music, you're providing the hits, but, for a lot of people looking from the outside, they don't really know what the Recording Academy is about or what the role of and the importance of it is. So can you just kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I ran for chair of the board, which is an elected position, and I won that position about a year ago. And then I was asked to step in as interim president and CEO of the Recording Academy. So in that position, I'm really responsible for the day-to-day operation of the academy, everything from our affiliates programs, which are MusiCares. And MusiCares is our philanthropic division, which raises money and helps people in need who are music professionals, not just our members, but anyone in the music profession who has issues with addiction or needs help with bill paying or medical care, or someone who's been involved in a disaster or a fire or a flood and has lost their instrument or their studio has been damaged. People in need, basically, in the music community have MusiCares as a resource, and that's one of the affiliates of the Academy. The other thing that the Academy does is advocate on behalf of music creators and music people in Washington, D.C. So it's lobbyists and people working on legislation to make sure that music people are fairly compensated and represented. We just did a huge push and huge effort around the COVID relief and stimulus packages where our teams in D.C. made sure that the voices of music people were heard. We were, pounding on people's desks to make sure that music people were represented in the stimulus and relief packages, and that worked because now music business people are considered small businesses, and we could apply for payment protection loans and apply for unemployment. So we've done that. We are also very active in education and making sure that young people are exposed and educated around music from an early age, and we provide instruments for schools, teachers for schools, things like that. And then, of course, we're also involved in the Grammy process, so rewarding and awarding greatness in music as well as preserving and making sure the history of music and the archives of music are continued to be preserved. So those are some of the things the Recording Academy does, and as President CEO, I'm responsible for making sure that the organization is doing all those things to the best of our ability and making sure that we are representing our membership, 22,000 members in the Academy, and the music population as a whole in a light that is something we can all be proud of.
Wow, that's amazing. What would you say is something that you learned or has been an eye-opening experience since you've, taken on this role?
Just the amount of passion and dedication that all the people in the Academy have, as an outsider or even as a producer, songwriter who was a member of the Academy. I've been a member for 13 or 14 years. You don't see how much heart and soul goes into all the things that the Academy does. You see the TV show and you see the awards and the trophies, but you don't know about all the fights that are going on for the Academy to make sure music people are being taken care of in every way. Like I said, even around this COVID, MusiCares raised over $17 million to go directly back into the music community. That's not something that everybody knows about unless you have need or you were unable to buy groceries for your kids. You wouldn't know about MusiCares and them giving away $17 million. But once you become aware of it, you have to just be blown away by how impressive and powerful the passion and the dedication that the Academy has towards helping the music community. So those are the things that, as I'm further and further into being the president and CEO, I'm seeing just the great programs and the amount of effort that the staff and some of the elected leaders really put into making sure they're looking out for the music community. And it's not selfish. We don't get anything out of this. We don't get awards or, we are here as an academy to serve our members and to serve the music community. And that is just, I hate to sound altruistic, but it's just impressive that there's this much heart that goes into helping music people.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing. And you spoke on the COVID-19 Relief Fund, which I think is an amazing thing. And, from what we've seen in the music industry, especially due to this pandemic, a lot of things have slowed down from music releases to concerts. And you're an established producer. You've had multiple hits. You're obviously going to continue to get the royalties. But how has this pandemic affected you as a producer? Has it slowed down things for you?
I'm very fortunate that I have, great people that I work with, and I'm able to continue writing and creating. I have a studio that I can write and create from, but I'm one of the rare few. There are so many people that have been affected, and they've, their career and income has come to a grinding halt. I'm lucky, again, I have a couple films that I'm working on, a television show, and some songwriting that I'm still doing, but it's just very difficult for a lot of musicians and music people to continue through this. So it's kind of one of the reasons why I felt that MusiCares Relief Fund was so important.
Yeah, and during this time, I guess the one thing that has been kind of cool during this time is the ability to innovate. Obviously, one of the biggest things has been those versus battles. And Harvey, I've been waiting to see an Underdogs versus battle. Do you ever see yourself doing that soon?
Oh, man, I don't know. I'm not as good at bragging and like dancing on screen as I would need to be to do good in one of those settings. But a lot of people have been asking us if we'd be up for doing one, and who knows? I've sure enjoyed them. I know Teddy and Babyface was one of my favorites, and Swiss and those guys. A lot of those people are people that I just have admired and respected for so many years, and to see them string all those songs together back to back is just incredible.
Yeah, definitely. And I would love to see you guys just just because you guys have put in so much work. I just spoke to Toni Dixon the other day, and we went through some of that music, and it's just an amazing thing that you guys have done. But I know you've also done a lot recently. The last time we spoke, you were working on the Aretha Franklin biopic. You were doing the music for that. Do we know when that's coming out? And just kind of talk about the music that you did for that.
Yeah, it's coming out in December now, and we pushed back a couple months just with all the craziness that's happening. The music is amazing. The film is great. Jennifer Hudson is amazing. And we're just very excited. The music was, real recreations of the classic and iconic copyrights, and Jennifer is singing them all and singing them as new versions. So, some films use original versions and you lip sync, but our versions are actually Jennifer re-recording and re-performing all the songs. So it's going to be really exciting, and they sound amazing.
What's your process for when Jennifer's re-recording these records? That is the approach to make the record sound similar to the original, or is it to give the song a new flair? Like, what's your approach with that type of with that project?
It's a fine line. You really have to balance what people love about the original song and respecting the original copyright, and then also making sure that you're giving audiences something that they're used to hearing as far as the way music sounds today, because you don't want somebody listening to a song and saying, well, it sounds horrible when you're sitting in a theater. They're used to hearing high fidelity, big bass and very crisp and sharp high end. And the records from the 60s and 70s didn't necessarily have those qualities. It's very similar to when I did Straight Outta Compton. As innovative and as amazing as those songs sounded when they came out, it's still a different sound from what people are used to listening to right now in contemporary music. So similar to that, you're walking the line between how do I make sure I don't screw up the classics, and balancing that with how do I make sure that when people sit in the theater and this music comes on, it blows them away and they're so excited and there's so much emotion behind it, and it translates and is sounding relevant. So that's really the balance for me.
Yeah, that Straight Outta Compton, what you guys did on there, that was an amazing piece of work. So I look forward to what's going to come of this Aretha Franklin biopic. Harvey, earlier you spoke about the Grammys, and I'll tell you what, one of the things that I noticed a lot on social media, especially from, the younger generation, I think they sort of downplay the Grammy Awards, and one of the words that I always see is that it's fixed or it's rigged. Like, how do you kind of change their views on it? I know it's hard to change one's opinion, but, as someone that's in charge of all of that, is that something that you're focused on, just making sure that the authenticity of the award show is still there?
Absolutely. And I think making sure people realize what the process is and education around what we do and what, the awards are and how we derive our winners is important. But there's absolutely nothing, is absolutely zero part of our process that's rigged. It's just about making sure people realize that and see. And I think that comes down to us being transparent, make sure people know our rules and our procedures, make sure that we communicate this stuff properly. And it's definitely a priority for me because, to me, I want the honor of winning a Grammy to always be consistent. I want somebody to win the Grammy and say, this is the greatest night of my life, and winning this is so important to me and so valuable to me, and that's what it's always meant to me. And I think anyone who's ever won a Grammy, you'll probably hear the same thing. It's very, very important. It's emotional, and it's exciting. So I want to make sure that continues. And I want to make sure we get the word out into any community that has questions how our process works and how pristine our voting process is. But that falls on us. That falls on me specifically as the person leading the Academy. It's my job right now at this very moment to make sure people know what our process is, and it's also my job to make sure the process is absolutely unquestionable. And those are all things that I'm working on and are huge priorities for me.
Right, that's an amazing thing. And
I'll also tell you that you're going to see some changes. You're going to see change. I've been here 4 months, and I think in the next month even you're going to see changes that we do we're going to institute new things into our process, and we'll be talking about it. And I think, like you asked the question, is it important to you? I think you're going to see how important it is to me.
That's amazing. And you know, one of the other complaints as an R&B listener, as an R&B fan, is we often complain about just, you know, the Grammy Awards, especially on the televised show. The R&B Awards are never actually televised, and I know there's a lot that play into it in terms of, you know, the network and ratings. Like, how do you kind of approach that? Because obviously there are going to be some genres that are more popular than others. How do you kind of make sure that every genre gets the attention that it deserves?
There, too, is definitely a balancing act, because we want to represent all the different genres. There are a lot, and we want to cycle between different genres, which ones we can show on the telecast every year. You know, there's 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 slots that we can fill, and you're trying to juggle which genres that you can fill in any given year, and you're balancing that with what does our network partner want to see on their show, and what are the audiences that are watching this show? Because as an academy, our funding comes from our television show, and it's not funding that we just, you know, have parties with and put in our pockets. This funding is funding that goes to running the academy and to making sure we're providing for our music community. And that goes back to what I told you, you know, the MusiCares, the advocacy, the education, the museum, all the things that we do as an academy are funded by that television show. So we really have to balance our desire to be fair and balanced and showcase all genres with making sure our ratings and our CBS partnership is strong and provides us with the income and financial structure stability to make sure that we can do all of our programs and provide for the music community.
That's amazing. And I know it's a tough job, but I know you're up for it. But Harvey, let me ask you a couple of general questions about R&B and just your experience with it. You know, while you were with the Underdogs and you saw the changes that were going on in R&B, especially in like the early 2010s when R&B really fell off the mainstream, like how did you kind of approach that time period? Because I think when we look back at it now, that was a pretty dark time for R&B.
In 2010, you're saying?
Yeah, around 2010, 2011.
Well, you know where I come from, and you know my background, you know the type of music that I kind of have been making, so I'm always a fan and somebody who's passionate about R&B music. So during a time when it started to slow down, I was trying to continue to champion and advocate for that genre of music by making great songs, but also realizing that it didn't benefit us as a production team, or it didn't benefit R&B music if we just stayed stagnant. So it was always about trying to evolve and grow and expose more and more people to our brand of music. And I think during that time period, it was a time that we tried to see around corners, see what was coming up in music, try and adapt and try and evolve what we were making. And we never went away from our roots, I don't think, but I think we did try and make sure that we were integrating other styles of music. And it was also time for us to branch out into TV and film music production and do things on that level. So I think it was a combination of continuing to try and push the music that we love, but also stayed reactive and stayed, fluid and had the ability to change gears.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things you did, you guys branched off, started working with some K-pop artists, and one of the conversations that I had with Toni Dixon, because I feel like when I listen to those K-pop records, especially in the R&B world, they feel more like the R&B records that I grew up loving than maybe some of the records that are being put out in the U.S. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I think the K-pop artists really love R&B, and they still are passionate about the music that we were making at that time period. And for the Korean fans and that audience and those consumers, they just have a real, genuine love for that type of music. I don't know what that stems from, but I think, different styles of music resonate differently at different times. And right now they're having a strong run with that style of music in K-pop.
Yeah. And Harvey, I spoke to Rodney Jerkins a couple of days ago, and that was somebody that took you on board and you went with him for the journey for a couple of years. And I think that's one thing that's underappreciated about you and Damon as well, is that you guys signed writers and producers, and they've eventually branched off to become great songwriters and producers as well, such as Tank. Another one is James Fauntleroy. Just talk about the importance of that and developing the next generation.
Sure. Well, I will start by saying, although I was older than Rodney and he was like my younger brother at the time, he was actually somebody who brought me into his camp. He brought me under his Darkchild company, and I learned so much being around Rodney and grew so much as a producer and a songwriter during my 2 years there. And so when I finished working with Rodney, Damon was finishing working with Babyface, and so that's kind of why we named ourselves the Underdogs, because we were coming out from under two very, very talented and prolific producers and production companies, and we started our own company. And as we got more and more busy, we started finding other talented people that were coming to us, and sometimes just kind of by weird circumstance, we would run into an artist or a producer or a songwriter or a singer that was just so amazing and it fit right in with what we were doing. So we just started signing people to our company. And again, it was a little bit of function of just serendipity, but some of it was the fact that we were becoming so busy that we were having to write 5, 6, 7, 10 songs a week sometimes for different artists. So having talented people around us that brought us amazing inspiration and great ideas and great songs and great production was kind of always part of the plan. We knew we were going to build a collective of people like-minded, like creatives, and that's why I think the Underdogs were so special. We did have a really, really unique blend of creative people all working together.
Wow. And I mean, just talk about James Fauntleroy a little bit, because if you look at his resume, many Grammys, a lot of hits, like what did you see in him early on? Because he's probably one of the best writers in the music industry right now.
Yeah, we saw just an amazing amount of creativity, like hyper creativity coming from somebody who didn't have any experience or knowledge about songwriting, but just the creative ability to write these genius melodies and lyrics. And so when we first signed James, he really didn't have a lot of background in professional music making or songwriting. But again, he just had this way with his words and way with melody that was unlike anything that I had ever heard. And so we wanted him to be a part of what we were doing, and he came in right away without the barriers of knowing what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. It was just pure creativity, pure art. And he was a true artist in every sense of the word. And he came in, he got into our system and just got the repetitions that he needed and the amount of sessions and the amount of collaborations and interactions with other creatives that I think he really thrived in that system, and he really grew in that system. He was great when he got there, don't get me wrong, but I think he added some additional skills to his repertoire after having hung around all the different people in the camp, and has definitely grown into being one of the most talented songwriters out in the game right now.
Absolutely, Harvey. And last question for you here. This is something that Toni told us, as well as Steve Russell, and I felt this was really interesting. It's kind of counterintuitive, but they were just saying when you guys were making music, you wanted to make it complex, but you didn't want to make it so complex that it would, and this is what Toni Dixon said, it would cord yourself out of the radio. Like, just talk about the approach there. Like, you want to make something that's unique, but you don't want to make it too tough for listeners to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with great musicians. Everybody in the Underdogs were amazing musicians. They could play multiple instruments and so much training on the piano and had so much musical vocabulary that people could go so many places. And we used to just say that, don't cord yourself off the radio, because the ability was there for people to just come up with these intricate patterns and really deep musical progressions. So we did try and keep it simple. We tried to keep it relatable, really relevant. And you also have to remember, like, hip-hop was very important at this time, and pop music was not super complicated, so we didn't want to be sticking out so far as a genre that we couldn't be accessible to other genres as well. So we were trying to cross platforms at that point. So what we would do is make sure we let people know that this was real R&B music by doing a section or two sections in all of our songs, to make sure we represented and were able to sneak some of that cool chord progression stuff into our records.
Yep.
A lot of times that was a bridge or an outro or a tag or something like that, where people were like, oh, that's one of those Underdog records. Here they go. They're about to hit some of these crazy chords. But then the rest of the song, we would come back to making sure we were really, really relatable. So that was the dance that we tried to perform every time we did a record.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing. I just tweeted out recently that the Underdogs, I feel like you guys did as good of a job as anyone at keeping the songs simple but interesting at the same time, and the vocal production was always on point. So I got to give you props for that.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Appreciate it very much. It's funny you've talked to all those guys already. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to celebrate all of you guys and the work that you've done, especially during these times. And, you're no different. We definitely want to highlight your work as well. And, again, what you're doing today, I think, is very inspiring for a lot of people. And I feel like the more they start realizing what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, I think more eyes will be on you. And I think we'll start celebrating your legacy a little more.
Well, I appreciate it very much, and it's nice of you to say that. And great, thank you for spreading the message and sharing what we're doing.
Absolutely, Harvey. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think it's exciting. I don't know if you've gotten kind of some of the other things that I've been working on lately. I'm sure you probably have, but a couple other movies and TV shows and records. We just finished Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which was a ton of music. I think we did 90 songs for that television show. The Aretha film I know you know about. We're doing Sing 2 for Universal, which is another big animated movie. Last year we did it. It had 60 songs in it, so a ton of great music. New artists we're developing and working on. Just, making sure you guys are updated with the other things that we're working on.
That's awesome, Harvey. Well, keep us posted, and we're definitely going to support. We've been supporting for many years, and that will continue.
Absolutely. You guys have always been super cool to us and to me personally, so I can't thank you enough. And if there's anything else I can do or any info you need from me, let me know. And hopefully when all this blows over, you guys just come through the studio and we'll do a little walk down memory lane or something.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. I'll hold you to that. We do that. I'll hold you to that. We do that. I'll hold you to that. We do that.